Well, good afternoon, everyone. I'm calling the November 4th, 2021 Public Safety Emergency Management Committee meeting to order. It looks like we are all in attendance. I will do approval of the minutes, but after that I have a statement. So I'm calling for approval of the minutes.
So moved.
I second. Oh, virus protection, hold on, okay. So therefore the meeting is in session. I see that we have Anthony Martinelli online, and I have a statement specifically for you. As chair of the Public Safety and Emergency Management Committee, I feel bound to let you know that in all my years on the Des Moines Council, I've not experienced any former or current member that has committed such crimes against another human being, and especially a woman. You of all people recommended and voted to increase the penalty for the crime of domestic violence when children are involved. And you've been accused and arrested for exactly that, along with many other domestic violence crimes. I find it reprehensible that you feel what you have been arrested and charged on were quote unquote ridiculous accusations. Although I cannot keep you from being on this committee requires someone who's able to conduct themselves with dignity and especially with honesty and transparency. You, in my mind, have none of these attributes. Having said this, I'm disgusted by anyone, and especially you, who commit the crime of domestic violence and will not own up to how egregious and dangerous this act is. And I do not and will not expect any comments from you. We now move to body camera policy. Chief?
Yes, thank you, Councilmember Bangs. As it relates to the body camera policy, I believe at the previous meeting, there was quite a discussion. I was not able to be here. It's important to note that when implementing body cameras, that's a change in working conditions for our police officers who are part of a union, part of their guild. So it's a mandatory subject of bargaining. And our HR director, AJ, is currently in negotiations and bargaining with the union about not only the wearing of the body cameras, but the body camera policy. So I think it would be inappropriate for us to go through that policy at a time when it's being bargained and negotiated with the members of our police union and city. So I think if we could move that one to next month, my recommendation, and I'm very hopeful that negotiation and bargaining will be done by next month and we could bring it back up at the December meeting.
I don't think I have a problem with that. It makes perfect sense.
No problem.
No problem. Okay.
That was my concern before. I want to make sure that the union has agreed.
Right, okay. So then we will move that to our December meeting and hope things go well. Next one would be animal control update.
Yes, I believe I've brought up to this committee in the past that the city would like to explore contracting with Burien Cares for our animal control services. It would come at a significant cost savings to the city and actually provide for more service, a broader range of service. But once again, because this is a position that falls under the Des Moines Police Guild, it is a subject of mandatory bargaining before we would remove a position from the guild. So once again, our HR director and the Des Moines Guild are in active negotiations and bargaining over that position and the impacts of that position if it should go to being contracted out. So once again, the update is it's in bargaining, and we anticipate it's very active, and we anticipate both of these issues will be resolved by the next meeting in December. And I would ask that we also carry that on to December.
I appreciate that. And I don't think we have anyone that would disagree with that. So we will move that now to December. Thank you. So next on the agenda, we have an update on code enforcement.
And if I can just do the introduction to that as Corey gets unmuted and ready to go. I would just like to say that you're about to see a presentation by Corey, who does an absolutely incredible job for our police department and our community. And I want to thank Corey for the great work that he does. And as usual, you're going to see a great presentation about some really good work done by Corey. So with that, if you want to take it away, Corey.
Thank you, Chief. Appreciate that. I'll share my screen here. And everybody see my PowerPoint?
There we go. Yes.
Yep.
Excellent. So, sorry, okay, here we go. Thank you guys. For those of you who don't know me, Corey Batterman. And my primary focus is code enforcement for the city. So I wanted to start out with just a couple annual stats here compared to the previous 2 years. You can see that we've kind of steadily increased the amount of code cases that we're taking on. Part of that's just efficiency and tracking better, but also we're just getting busier. And then the amount of tickets that I've issued, obviously the whole job isn't just issuing tickets, but there's definitely a piece of that. So last year, you'll notice in 2020, we had quite a dip. And of course, that was because of COVID and the courts being at minimum staffing or closed. So
I do not see, I can't see 2021. What's the number on 2021?
200,091, 384.
200,091, 384.
Yeah, and it'll be over 300,000 by the end of the year.
Yeah, it was 291,384, 430 cases.
Thank you. I don't know. You guys are in the way, so I can't see it.
Okay.
Sorry. Go ahead.
Okay, thanks. So I wanted to take a majority of the time and just kind of go over a recent case here that I've wrapped up and kind of do a little bit of a case study, let you know kind of what I've been doing. So this is 1912 and 1914 South 222nd. If you blinked, you'd probably miss it driving by. It's kind of St. Phil's sits here, and this is Underwood Park. So it's just this little skinny piece of property. There's 2 dwellings on the property. They were built in 1910 and 1920. There was a remodel to one of them in 1992. And so the structures have been vacant for quite a while. And the owner, who visits occasionally, definitely had some hoarding tendencies. So there was a lot of stuff going on there. We have received several reported issues from our patrol officers responding to him reporting people had broke into the house or trespassed, but also from surrounding neighbors, overgrown vegetation, dilapidated structures, trespassing, garbage and rubbish and junk vehicles. So believe it or not, there is a house back there, and you'll see it a little more clearly here later. Motorhome that he had stayed in when he'd come up here, a couple boats, things like that. The one other thing in this picture I'll draw on the left side there of kind of what would be the porch where this is a huge tree that is essentially growing through the house now. So this is the older house, and it was definitely unlivable.
Wow.
So this is the second structure back behind a picture from the neighbor's house. And again, you can barely see it. So I met with this property owner several times, told him of the issues, issued him a notice of violation. We did talk about some mental health services because it was obvious that there was some of that going on here. I mean, he was functioning, but there was a lot he was dealing with, and it was out of control.
Was he living there or not living there?
he was not living there full time. He had another property. He would come up and stay every couple weeks to every month in that motorhome in the driveway because he couldn't live in the houses.
Okay.
And so just to take care of the property, check on it, that kind of thing. So through my working with him, he started making progress, said he wanted to sell the property and needed to get it cleaned up. He had the desire to. He didn't necessarily have the means, although wouldn't accept help. He just wanted to do it on his own terms. So offered him dump vouchers. He took advantage of that. And he started to make some pretty significant progress. And then he delivered on his promise and sold the house in March of 2020. So this is a picture of after he got his stuff out of there and after the new owners actually kind of started to whack away at some of the vegetation, but still not in great shape. So this is 8 months. He had made a significant amount of progress with the amount of stuff he got out of there. There's that house. And so instantly I contacted the new owners about 3 or 4 days after it closed. I was in contact with her and set up a time to meet. And she had, oops, I'm sorry. That's not right. Oh yes, I'm sorry, I got confused. Sorry. So met with the new owners, attempted to meet with the new owners. I got ahead of myself. And they set up a meeting with me and then they didn't meet. They canceled at the last minute. And so I was like, uh-oh, this isn't a good feeling. So gave them a notice of violation and started communicating with them more and give more expectations. They didn't know what they were going to do with the property. They did start cleaning up and removing vegetation. So same thing. I started working with them, a lot of contact with them, but also had them under notice of violation that, listen, you guys need to address this. They knew the city's position. The biggest thing that they were trying to figure out is what they were going to do with the property, because it was a lot bigger undertaking than they initially thought. So, so they did a ton of cleanup. And as you can see, it's starting to look like a house, tarps and piles of stuff that eventually got removed. In them trying to figure out what they were doing, they hired an architect and several other people to come in and assess it, to go, does this make sense for us to, you know, clean this up and remodel it? Is it remodelable or do we need to demo it? Well, the architect's assessment was that it needed to be demoed. And then additionally, other things. I hadn't been in both of these structures, but through their own admission, you know, there was no floor in this yellow structure. It was dirt, you know, so it was pretty bad. So at that point, when city had more information about it, we decided it was, for safety reasons, we needed to disconnect the power to the structure. So that hadn't been done. And so we forced the power company to disconnect the power until we can deem that it was safe. So she put it on the market again. So here we are in June now, and she listed it. They did a ton of cleanup. So they really did turn the property around from what it was when they purchased it, but it was still dilapidated. So here are some of the listing photos, just to give you an idea. And of course, in the listing photos, they didn't show everything bad, but this is the back of the house. This is the interior. Significant water damage in the second structure out back that probably potentially made it unlivable. And that's what the architect agreed. The kitchen ceiling was falling in the other one. And like I said, dirt floors showing through. So pictures definitely don't do it justice. And so then in October, we have now the third owner. So just a little over a year later. And this is the person I got on the phone, and instantly within a few days of it closing, she met me at the property. And I was relieved to hear she planned to demolish both structures, had the finances to do it, and was ready to move forward. She had hoped to have it demoed by Christmas. And so I said, hallelujah, you're my savior. Let's get this taken care of. So she started down that road, started with the demo permit process. You know, to get a demolition permit it's not a quick process, because there is things like asbestos abatement that needs to be done. Utilities need to be disconnected, septic figured out. And so it's a bit of a process, but she definitely started that. And we stayed in contact, and then things started kind of staling out. And so come February, here we are again. We hadn't done this. Well, the structures were unsecure. I think you can see in that last picture, garage door open, front door open. We had talked about that numerous times, and she hadn't dealt with that. And so we stepped in and I condemned it, which means it's unsafe to occupy under code. It's not safe for people to live there and occupy it, or red tag, some people call that. And our communications were great, and I thought we were making progress, but we weren't. She wasn't making progress. And so I issued her $6,100 in tickets to help motivate her. And so that didn't do, we didn't have a ton of movement. She was still going through the motions. And so in March, I issued her a notice of condemnation, and in order that she needed to, she was ordered to structure. She had said she was going to and hadn't done it. So this was the formal order ordering her to do that. So those tickets that I had wrote, the $6,000 were for violations from initially, like after she bought it, to this period that I had documented. So she finally got it secured. And then in August, she still had not dealt with this. We had spoke several times. I mean, literally weekly. I was up at her workplace or talking to her on the phone, almost begging and pleading. And there wasn't a good reason other than she owns a business, works 7 days a week, and just doesn't have the time to dedicate to it. And so through a lot of conversation and saying, hey, listen, the amount of tickets that I'm going to issue you are going to be more than the cost of demo. Can we just please do this? And trying to hold her hand, we weren't having success. And so I ended up issuing her, as you can see, a pretty big number, $23,500 in tickets, because that was our next step in this. And she knew it was coming, definitely. So, well, I'll be darned. We got to a point where she was issued a demo permit. And that was probably within, a month or so of me issuing her those tickets. And we got both structures down. And so this is what it looks like today. And it just goes to show you, a lot of these code cases are pretty complex. You'd think it'd be pretty easy. Tell them to clean it up, right? Tell them to deal with it. Well, the problem with that is it takes a lot of twists and turns. And just when you think we're getting pretty far, they go and sell it. And now I start all over with somebody else, right? So that's just a challenge that I deal with. And it's something that everyone in code enforcement deals with. I talk to my counterparts and they handle it the same way, and it's just going through it. So something just for you guys to remember in general about code enforcement cases, we've come up with a website, DesMoinesWA.gov/reports, which is a great portal if you can direct people that come to you to go make a report on there. And my contact information, you can always direct them directly to me too. But it saves me a step when they're able to go fill in the forms and, give me half the information that I need already that I don't have to go out and gather. So that's what I kind of wanted to go over. We didn't have a ton of time. So any questions or anything I can answer specifically?
I have a couple questions.
Okay.
So this report here for others is for them to report to you concerns they have about whatever, a neighbor, a piece of property that's not what quote unquote in compliance. Is that what this
Correct.
is?
Yeah. Anybody that wants to report code violations to be investigated.
Okay.
Yeah.
So code violations just in general.
Yep.
All right. Then the other one is you're speaking at 222nd. There's a house that's behind a huge fence that is on the north side of the street. Are you familiar with that house?
Well, I believe that's the one we're talking about.
Oh, is that the one?
Yes.
Oh.
Mhm.
You answered my question then.
And I apologize because I could go on forever and show you a million pictures. And so at some point I have to just throw it up. So the very first picture is of that fence. I was going to go try to grab it, but the fence is gone. The fence is gone as well.
Okay.
She took the fence down. So here I'll share my screen one last time just so you can see. And
yeah, just so I can see that one there.
This is the one you're talking about.
Oh,
It's,
wow.
I don't know. Does that look like what it is? Obviously you can't see the road, but
Yeah, because when I'm driving by, there's no way I could have seen all of that stuff in the back.
yeah.
But it looks like that is the one, I think.
Just past St. Phil's.
Yeah, on the north side.
Yep.
Yep. Okay.
Yep. That's
Yeah.
precisely the one we're talking about here. So
Wow, that's crazy. So the next one is the property on, and you may not know anything about this, but the property on 216th that's now behind a cyclone fence.
I know
Where are we
everything
with-
about it.
Yeah,
Yep.
where are we with that one, Corey?
As far as what they,
Is it ours? Is it still theirs?
yeah, they own it. They've
They still
maintained
own
it. They put that fence up.
Okay,
For years, we didn't have a good contact. We couldn't get a hold of them. And we definitely have it now. That's another situation where I issued $20,000 in tickets after we had begged and pleaded and served them with paperwork
right, right.
to maintain the property to, 3 different people, and finally have everybody responsible in contact with us. They're maintaining it. In fact, they just mowed it down again and made sure the fence was in place. So they've
Oh,
secured
okay.
it. We haven't had any issues to my knowledge up there. And if there is an issue, I can quickly send an email to them, and they've been dealing with it. So between
Awesome.
Matt and I think we have a pretty good handle on that one. He has
Okay.
plans to develop that and has met with the city, as I understand it, in a pre-app, but just hasn't been able to get across the finish line with his plans and stuff. So
Right, makes sense. Council member or Deputy Mayor
Cor-
Mahoney?
Hey, Corey, great
Yes, sir.
job. Like, I love when you do this because it really gives us a snapshot of the maze you have to go through to accomplish the mission. Because
Thanks.
yeah, for most people, it seems so simple. Is there any status on that red house where the murder occurred at the corner of Woodmont Beach Drive, I believe it is, and Marine View?
yes.
I know that's been problematic in that community.
Yes, absolutely. So it's been boarded up, and I've been in contact with the mortgage company and have served them a declaration. There's a House bill that was passed here a couple of years ago that if it's in mid foreclosure, it's a nuisance and it's deemed vacant, that we can send them a declaration of all those things and require them to clean it up. So I just did that at the end of last week. If you don't know, the owner of that place is deceased, not in the homicide, but previously. And so it had been unsecure and there was unauthorized people in there. And so we had to go through several hoops to find the next of kin. They're out of state. It was kind of a distant next of kin, but it was the closest. They had been up here and thought the house was secure and had no clue. And then we didn't have any clue until we had an incident there. So once that happened, of course, we were on it. I was on it and got a hold of everybody. And like I said, have talked to the mortgage company, and they have a property reservation company that as of yesterday, I was emailing with. And we're monitoring it very closely, and knock on wood, have not had any issues since it's been boarded up.
Thank you.
Great.
Corey,
Good job, Corey.
can I ask you to share your screen one more time and go back to the first, the page that you have with the data? Because
Yep.
I'm going to ask Councilmember Bangs to drag her, that shows the people on the side to the top,
I don't know how to do that.
because I think it's critically important to see that the work that Corey is doing, when you look at Corey's effort to gain compliance with code enforcement, in working very closely with Tim George and members of our city attorney's office, Corey, in partnership with our city attorney's office, has just done an incredible job of gaining compliance through enforcement. Sometimes these investors are from out of the area, out of the
Yeah.
city, out of sight, out of mind, and
Yeah.
I just want to really highlight, if you could see that, and we'll find a way to get you to be
Oh,
able to see
okay.
it.
Yeah, Luisa,
I just
click on the
figured out
blue
how to
camera
do
down
it.
below,
Yeah,
and
I
you
did it.
should get 2 screens.
I got it.
Okay.
It just really shows the great job that Corey's doing to get compliance, and he gives warnings about a bunch of warnings before we get him writing tickets, and now he's gaining compliance with tickets. So that tells you the work that he's doing. So I just really thought it was important to highlight that out.
No, that's great. I was able to figure out how to reduce the screen. Is this something that we can share with the entire council, Chief? Are we concerned about the property that Corey's been dealing with, or you, how?
Is that, as long as it's something that you want, and you request, I believe that we could do that in some sort of a process. Sure.
Unless you're doing a report at some point in time fairly soon at a council meeting, this is good information. I mean, it
Yeah.
probably would be better if Corey actually did a presentation. Don't you think, Corey?
Absolutely. And the reality of it is, without me going long, I mean, this is one of probably
Right.
6 or 7 of these type of very serious, very long involved, have been going on for years cases.
Yeah.
And so I could try to do some kind of a condensed version, or even kind of compare to what the last presentation I did a couple of years ago to full council. It's just kind of an update on where we used to be and where we are and the progress we've made or something.
That would be so good, because it's been a while, and we get sort of wrapped up in everything else that's going on, and we don't see enough of the good stuff that y'all are doing. So I think that would be advisable, as whether it's the next one or the one in December, but not too far out in the future.
Okay.
Good job.
Great.
If I could for a moment.
No, not really. Sorry. Just kidding. Just kidding.
Oh, my video went off. Oh, my microphone went off.
No, we can hear you and see you.
Right. I
He's
think
only
that
joking.
one thing to remember is this started about 5 years ago. And the city attorney, PD, community development, building department, we all started to identify what were the and Tim was very involved with this, and also setting up the fund to address code enforcement issues. But at that time, we had a list of 20 properties that were problem properties. And through the course of time, every one of those issues got resolved, and through tremendous effort. So I think, what Corey's doing and has done is beyond outstanding, just excellent. And Chief, you can use that in his evaluation if you want. But Corey's done a great job. But this is such an involved process, and it can go in a million directions. And I just want to remind council, one of the best things about, I think, how the city approaches all of this is we're interested in compliance, not punitive actions. And I think the degree of patience that Corey exhibits before he writes $23,000 worth of tickets is really outstanding, because he's trying to bring it into compliance with the understanding that it's affecting the quality of life of everybody else in the community and their safety. So great job, Corey. I just wanted to kind of give a little background. We've been on it for a while, and this is just a really tremendous ongoing effort that we really appreciate.
I think the other thing we forget to highlight about Corey is his empathy, because there is an opportunity for him to be, a real tough cookie, but you do work with each and every one of them as much as you can. And with all of us, there's a tolerance level, and then there's a law enforcement level. So just the fact that you were trying to help that guy get some mental health services, because obviously there were some issues that you saw, I think is commendable. And then working with 2 and then the third owner, I mean, your patience level is far beyond mine. I think that's commendable as well. You really are very empathetic when you're working with these people. You're not just, here's your $23,000 fine. You're working with them along the way, and I appreciate that a lot. I'm sure they do. But there's a law, period.
Appreciate it. Thank you.
So thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, so for the good of the order, questions, concerns. I know it's only been a half an hour, but we've gotten a lot of good information.
I do have one thing to bring up, Councilmember Banks, for the good of the order.
Yes.
I was just notified prior to the meeting by Commander Richards that in working with AJ in our HR department, we plan to have the social services behavioral health position posted by the end of the day tomorrow.
Awesome.
And, so we're hoping to have that position go live. My goal is December 1st, but I'm pretty aggressive on that. But if we could get it done by December 1st or December 15th, that position will work closely with our current CSO, Tanya Seabury, who is very excited about this opportunity, and they will focus on homeless that happen to be in our community, those people that need services, those people that are struggling. We are going to very actively work with those members that are in our community to really work to improve the quality of life and get them into the services they need, while avoiding interaction with law enforcement, but really focus more on the social services approach. So extremely excited and very thankful to Commander Richards for putting the program together, and AJ in HR for making this happen. So thank you very much. It's super exciting news.
Very good. That is great news. Thank you. Appreciate that update. So any other questions or comments? Otherwise, what I'll do is ask for an adjournment.
So moved.
Second. Thank you, and we'll see you at the council meeting in 30 minutes. Take care.